June 15th, 2020. The time is 11:01 a.m. We are finally resuming our commissioner status update, which we haven't done since the onset of COVID. I am officially calling this meeting to order. Attending in person are Commissioners Duncan and Fillios. Joining us by phone is Commissioner Bill Brooks. Do we have any changes to the agenda? Hearing none, moving forward. Just as a refresher, normally these updates are essentially for we commissioners to discuss items amongst ourselves from time to time. However, we will call on people so that you can add your intellect and knowledge to the discussion. So, and if you do wish to speak, by all means, do let us know. But in any case, that's the primary but that's the primary focus of this meeting, so that we can all be up to date on happenings within our county. Okay, so the first item of business is the Rich Houser Memorial, and I should point out that Pam Houser has joined us. Welcome, Pam. Good to see you. Bill, did you want to start this discussion, or would you prefer I turn it over to Lori?
Well, I will just say a brief little bit, but Lori is primarily person with the idea here. I just thought it was important that as good a person, as competent a person, as great an employee of the county as Rich was, I wouldn't want to let his past just go by the wayside. I think it's important that we remember Rich. That's all I have to say.
Okay. Lori, do you want to jump in here?
Sure, I would be happy to, Commissioners. Thank you. Yes, I agree 100% with what Bill shared about Rich, and we had talked about maybe different ways that we could acknowledge his commitment and his dedication to the taxpayers and the citizens of Kootenai County. And one of the things that reached out and visited with Pam, and she reached out to their kids, and we came up with a proposal that we'd like the board to consider, and I hope Greg Manley was able to attend, because we've talked with Greg a little bit as well.
Greg is
about
here.
Maybe doing a memorial area garden just outside of the administration building on the north side of the kind of where you walk down the steps, and then you can go down the steps all the way into the lower parking lot. And it would have some features, and Pam has kind of got the brainchild, and I know she would be probably happy to speak to it, but we thought of it as an area of where employees could go to eat lunch, to take their breaks, but also it's kind of designed, we were hoping to be able to put like a water fountain in there and a bench or two, and again, I'll ask Pam to speak to the specifics, but would also allow for the public, if they're waiting for a court date or waiting to get driver's license, would give them also an area for them to sit and have an area to congregate. The plus side also to it is that this would be an ongoing, which we all know will probably happen. We have other employees that pass and their families want to maybe do something. This would give us an area dedicated that we could enhance the grounds for anything future or prior as well. And both Pam and I have had people contact us saying that they wanted to do something for Rich, and this would be something where we would raise the money for the items. That would not be something that the county would expend dollars for, and so Pam's kind of got a budget of everything, and so would like the board's consideration and thoughts. And so I turn it over. Pam wants to give the specifics if the board would like to hear those.
Yeah, absolutely. So. Pam, go right ahead. Would you mind stepping forward so we can?
Thank you for considering this. You know, Rich was just 58 years old when he passed, and he's worked at the county for over 30 years, so over half his life he's spent here. So this is like his second home, and I would just love to have something here for the staff. He thought of the staff as family, as he did, you know, the citizens that he represented. So, yes, we've done our homework and have basically a budget between $2,500 and $3,000 that we would raise to create this garden, and so, which won't be an issue at all. So just then, obviously, the upkeep, but we'll be using all local folks to give us what we need. So I think, as Lori said, maybe a bench or a picnic table or something like along that line. And the fountain is kind of a key thing. That's something that's real special to Rich. We have 2 of them in our own yard, so it's kind of his thing. And then maybe even perhaps a tree or something, but just, yeah, a place where people can go and sit and take a breather, and then we'll just have a little placard, you know, with kind of live your best life kind of message, so. Okay,
So,
thank you.
as far
I'm
as-
sorry, I couldn't hear. How much was the total amount of money to be raised?
Probably between $2,500 and $3,000, which Lori and I will take full responsibility for raising the money.
I'm sorry, you're still not very
Okay,
clear. Say
so,
again.
okay, what Pam said was the estimated cost is between $2,500 and $3,000, and she and Lori Thomas will take the responsibility of raising the money.
Excellent. Excellent.
And-
Thank you very much.
Go ahead, Lori.
And I neglected, and I'm not sure if Pam also shared, Rich's birthday is the 1st of August. And so our goal is to hopefully get this done, and if it works with building and grounds, and that's, you know, a question for Greg, to see if we would be able to get this into place by the time for his birthday.
And how will you be collecting this money, and what source? Not a GoFundMe, but more of a...
Oh, no,
personal
just
thing.
personal asks.
Yeah.
Most of our family will probably take care of the expense, and anyone that wants to be a part of
Okay.
it. But, yeah, we won't,
And
no,
I've
there'll
had
be no
some other
public.
professional associations that have also stepped forward, and a couple of other individuals in the community.
Okay, well, I'd like to donate $100 to that.
Thank you, Bill.
Oh, thank you.
Sure. Sure.
So my question revolves around maintenance. Are you expecting that your group will handle maintenance as well, or is that what, building and grounds?
No, I think we'll handle the maintenance, and that's one reason why we want to raise enough money to have some in the coffers, but our family will take that responsibility. And, you know, like if we have a fountain, we'll have a pump, which has to be probably taken out in the winter and put back in, but,
Right.
you know, in 5 years, if it goes out, we would need to replace that, so we'll make sure that we cover that,
Okay.
okay?
Do you have something like a drawing or nothing like that?
Not
Okay.
yet, yeah,
Okay.
okay. I thought we'd need to work with grounds on that, so whatever that looks like with them.
Sure. Yeah, my just overall thing is, I can't really put anything else on building and grounds right now, you know, as far as like long-term maintenance.
Oh, no, right.
Things and stuff,
Yeah.
so, yeah, so if it's something that's, you know, already contained and, you know, we know that people will be servicing it before winter and that kind of thing, then
Yes.
that would be helpful.
I did speak with Carrie Rankin Thorson, who kind of, you know, they maintain somewhat of the
Yeah.
memorial, the Rankin Memorial, and, you know, varnish the bench and all that. So just so we had an idea of what that looked like. So yes.
Great, great, okay. So,
Any other thoughts?
And,
Okay.
no, and Leslie, this is Lori, can I
Yeah, go right
interject
ahead.
one more
Go
thing?
right
Leslie, I did have a conversation with Greg about this, and if he was able, you might want to make sure, but he didn't seem to think there would be a lot of extra work, but I would like to have him respond, not just take my word, so.
Greg, do you want to comment?
It all depends on what they're gonna put out there. Because if it's a bench or a picnic table, that's really not gonna create any extra work for us. You know, with flowers or something, something else, but if they're willing to maintain that, that's, you know, that would work for us.
Bill, did you hear what Greg said?
Yes, they did.
Okay, so you know what, we can entertain a motion, and then we'll leave the maintenance up to be negotiated, if you will, between Pam and Lori and Greg to whatever works, so that you're not taking on an inordinate, I can't imagine it's inordinate, but just so that it works out for everyone's benefit.
Yeah, it's not an action item, so I would love to
Oh,
see
that's
just,
true.
yeah, so we could easily do this at a business meeting, if you just want, that's why I asked about like a diagram and kind of, I don't know if it might almost be an MOU, a memorandum of understanding, saying that, okay, we understand you're gonna, maintenance, take care of it, and if the pump goes out and stuff like that. So, yeah, all right.
Shawn?
Just so everybody's aware, that the sprinkler system right there is not set up for that. So there would have to be some modifications made to that sprinkler system. Because I put that in years ago, and it's just a straight line. So you'd have to get somebody who knows irrigation and that can tap into that and set it up on like a valve basis where it feeds itself a little bit of water every day or something like that. Because there's no water there right now other than what's in the ground.
Okay. Well, and that's kind of, I guess, why I wanted like a little diagram or something and to know, because don't they make freestanding fountains nowadays where you don't need a water source and all that stuff? So, okay. That
And you
would be-
guys can work that out. I'm
Yeah.
sure you'll figure it out if you haven't
Yeah.
already. So thank you. So
Okay.
I guess conceptually, we're fine with it. Okay, moving on to the second item, space concerns at Elections Building. Leslie, did you want to start this?
Sure, and I can have Clerk Brannon speak to it as well. This situation where we had an all-mail-in election kind of solidified some election concerns about space needs in the future. And, they sent out 40,000 ballots for this November's election. We've got, is it 90,000 now registered voters? Over 89,000 registered voters now. So they need more space at elections. And with the coroner moving out, I think that's going to free up some, but we're kind of looking at potentially getting U of I over to Fairgrounds a little bit sooner than we had thought about in long-term planning. So Clerk, would you like to speak to your needs?
I think you've summed it up pretty well. There's really nothing more to say. I mean, we are mandated service in elections, and we are on top of each other, and with the new social distancing, there's no way we could do training for workers because we don't have a room big enough.
Right.
Okay, and I met with Charla Wilson last week, raised the idea of U of I extension meeting at the fairgrounds. Charla seems to be more than amenable to it. My understanding, I haven't discussed it with you yet, Alexcia, wanted to wait till after this past weekend. And while I'm on the topic, you want to jump in here? Only, no, we discussed it conceptually. I mean, I don't know where the space is, what building, whatever. But the idea of locating it there so they have a permanent home is what we discussed. Go ahead.
Well, I think their natural home would be at the fairgrounds. That
Okay.
makes perfect sense. Where we're gonna run into some issues is currently anything that is rentable, we rent it and it's already contracted for the season. So I'm not sure how you propose we move people out of that space and how you propose I make up for the lost revenue in a year where I cannot forego any lost revenue. So
Sure.
if you've got good plans, I'd love to hear them.
All right. Well,
So would I.
yeah. So
Since I
Alexcia,
brought it up.
you and I
Anyway.
had talked about building 19 in the past. Is there a way to put bathrooms in building 19?
Yes, so that's something we wanted to do quite some time ago. Building 19 is not large enough.
Okay.
If that's what you're looking to do, is hold their meetings and all of their office space for all of Extension, or just for the 4-H office? Which are you proposing?
So a couple different things. They already work with you during the summer, right? So, yes.
But they're not on site all summer.
Okay. So I think my mind is you and
Charla.
Charla, sit down, figure out schedules and figure out that kind of thing. My understanding that there's some funds available that we can put towards this project. So once you guys figure out what does work, what doesn't work, then I think we can meet again and say, okay, we've got a good path forward, this is what we need. One idea was putting a small building, 3,000 square foot maybe, where you now have that grass area next to your office. So potentially having, their office space there, if they can use like the kitchen from the, one of the kitchens from the food court. And so there's a lot of stuff up in the air, but I think that we can find a good path forward at this point, since we do have some dollars potentially there. And I don't know if Jennifer, if you can speak to, if it's too early to speak to money.
We are gonna get some reimbursement from the primary in, the presidential primary in March. But how that all works out, because facilities are up to you guys.
Right.
And when you're trying to coordinate University of Idaho, our fair, and our department, it's best just to throw it around and see what would work.
So to answer your earlier question, Alexcia, the U of I Extension will need it for essentially all their meetings. So to Leslie's point, why don't you and Charlotte get together? Because right now it's an idea, but it's an idea that I think almost has to come to fruition given what's going on with county assistants and elections. So put your heads together, come up with something, and let's see how we handle it. We're going to have to address the funding issue sooner or later, but at least if we have an idea where and how they can be accommodated, we can go from there.
Yeah, and so when we do get the money figured out, then we'll be
Yeah.
able to, meet again and say, okay, where are you guys at? Here's where we're at and stuff. And my understanding, though, is you guys will need pretty much the space by October 1 or October 15, when,
Well, there's two issues here. Yes, because early voting will be taking place. But the other thing is that the current contract with Extension runs from October 1st to September 30th. So
right,
it's a perfect timing for that.
Okay.
right,
Okay.
yeah. No, it's not, but that's way, if we can figure out any way to limp them through before it's, until it's built.
And take one
But
step.
otherwise, they're just gonna have to find someplace else, because elections has to take priority at this point. So we're trying our very best to get something in place, before September 30th, but we'll have to figure it out.
Natural home makes sense, but we will see what we can come up
See what you guys can come up
Yeah.
with. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. So moving on to item 3, pending item status review list attached. Okay, so some of these items have probably not been addressed in some time. Some
Right.
have. So I'll start with the first, I think, how many items do we have? Oh, we've got about 8 items, okay. So I'll start with the first one on the Romer House. Leslie, Bill, feel free to jump in, of course. We did meet last week with Julianne and Zoanne and Deb Mitchell from the committee to try to create the music conservatory at the Romer House. And what we wound up with is we gyrated through this in terms of leasing it and whatnot. Bill had made the recommendation that maybe the cleanest approach to this whole thing is to simply have them buy it. We could actually lease it, but what's interesting, after getting legal review, if we're going to lease it and not go out for bid for the lease, it would take a unanimous vote of the board, and Bill has already said he's not interested in leasing, so much with that. So we're proceeding with the idea of a potential sale. However, once again, it does have to go out for public auction, if you will, or bid. And so that's where we left it. There are a couple of action items. One of them is for Pat to complete the drafting of a facilities use agreement, which I thought he was going to have on Friday. I haven't followed up with him yet, but I will today.
Okay, so you'll follow up with him?
Yes, I'm going to follow up with Pat today.
Okay,
Okay. What they're thinking of doing, what they'd like to do is to be able to use the grounds for potential concerts, the grounds, not the interior, and at the same time work out a schedule, and it's probably going to be few and far between where potential donors can enter the building so that they can see what it is that they're going to be writing checks for, should they decide to do that. The other thing is that if we do go to a public auction, Leslie has suggested for some time, and I believe legal has agreed to this, is writing in restrictive covenants. That is to say that the building can only be used for certain purposes, cannot exceed a certain height or whatever, so that it doesn't go out to, let's say, a potential developer building a multi-story condo. So we're going to presumably taking those measures. So that's where we are with that. I'll follow up on the facilities use agreement, and so that takes care of that. Bill, Leslie, anything?
Nope, that covers it.
No.
Okay. The Herd District creation. Bill?
The fellow who was, and I don't have his name in front of me, very interested in the herd district. We had a meeting 4 weeks ago, and I gave him the herd map with all the, everything laid out perfectly with the property addresses, AIN numbers, and he was going to take it upon himself to contact all those people along the effective route and get back to me, and I have not heard back from him.
Okay.
So,
that's a follow-up. Okay.
yep.
Okay, next, fire station at the fairgrounds. We're still waiting on legal. I have not seen anything yet. I believe it's Pat who's working on it. I don't have it before me. But-
Dave
Or is
Ferguson,
it
maybe.
Ferguson? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, it's either Pat or Dave. So I need to follow up on that. And that was a request, and Alexcia is well aware of it, by Kootenai Fire and Rescue to locate a fire station at the fairgrounds. So we're waiting on the legal document. And I'll follow up on that. Okay. Campus auction MOU. I think that's in a state of abeyance. That was a request by a realtor, Todd Tondi, also former county commissioner, working with an auction company to be able to use our grounds here, or presumably right outside the courthouse, to be able to conduct, I guess they're foreclosure auctions. The ruling does state that it has to be held at the county seat, but that doesn't necessarily have to be on premises. But that was the request. I've not heard anything further. Shawn, have you?
No, and I'm thinking until the social distancing stuff, it's probably not going to happen.
So let's put a hold on this for now, okay? Moving on, the body scanner. Bill, this one's yours.
Yeah, I think this thing is ongoing. The sheriff's office has obviously found the funds, and they're working out the actual purchase and, the buying of and installation of the body scanner.
Now, they've received bids, haven't they?
Yeah,
Don't we have bids for it?
Yeah, as far as I know.
yes, we have received 2 bids, and it was supposed to be with them and legal. Bill, do you know where the funds are coming from? Because Dina Darrow's here, and she is not aware that they have found funds.
Oh, I do not know that.
Okay.
Dina, do you want to
No, nobody does.
Dina, do you want to jump in here, please?
As I recall, we had asked them to put together RFP, but the funds had not been identified yet where they would come from.
Source.
So now that the bids have come back, we need to discuss where you would like those from.
Okay, so that's the next step on this one, right? Thank you. Okay, ongoing facilities expansion. I guess all 3 of us could jump in, but Leslie, you want to lead us off on this one?
Sure. We have a potential of occupying a building that would take care of a couple department needs right off the top. So we're looking at getting, well, yeah, that's all right to say that. So we're going to get an appraisal for this.
Yeah, we're good.
Yeah, building. So once that happens and we are able to negotiate a deal, then we'll be able to come forward and say, okay, this is what we're looking at. The departments who are involved in moving have been contacted. I'm going to suggest that the $5 million that was in the 2020 budget be rolled forward to the 2021, that we can end up maybe purchasing this building and end up buying, building something. We're still going to have to build something on campus because of public defender, prosecutor, and courts. There just isn't any room anywhere for them to go. So unfortunately, we still are going to have to look at building a new building. But with the acquisition of this other building, it looks like that we may be able to, shrink down and won't need to be a 6-story building that we originally looked at. Might be able to get away with 3 or 4 stories. So
And the building that we're considering is, number one, there's no other offer on it. It's not being publicly offered. We were approached, number one, and number two, it is, I can say, and I think Leslie and Bill would agree, in virtual move-in condition.
Yes, yes. So,
Shawn, would you like to jump in here, since you kind of spearheaded this?
So,
okay, but don't violate anything from,
no, I'm not gonna talk about that. I got that one. I think what probably needs to happen along the lines of a new building being built here is sooner or later, we need to get the RFQ out.
yes.
Because we've been talking about it for 8 months. You have enough money.
That's a very good point.
You have enough money to hire an architect.
Well, the 5 million, in my mind, covers the building
It should
and it
do
covers
both.
the architect for
Right,
the
do
new
both.
building.
Right,
Yeah.
so if that's gonna be the case, then, you know, you and I can get together and figure that out, and let's get the RFQ started.
Good point.
Because just
Okay.
the process itself is gonna take 4 to 6 months, and then, by then, you're gonna know what you wanna do, then you can go into design and we can go from there. But I think it would be good, now that things are starting to open back up a little bit, for me to write an RFQ and present it, and then you and I just have to figure out how many square feet exactly is it.
There we go.
Yeah, I mean, you got time at 1 o'clock today? I'm open.
But I can do it tomorrow.
So,
Okay.
yeah, let's
Yeah.
get on
Good
that.
idea,
all right.
absolutely.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, so that's what's going on with facilities. It's actually rather exciting, so. The facility we're currently looking at currently houses about 100 people. So the space is plentiful, including vehicles. Anyway, okay. Moving on to the PAC, that's Panhandle Area Council Airport Lease. Leslie?
Yep, so we're getting close to that because the airport budget should be finalized, I would imagine, in July. And then we'll be able to bring forth that agreement once what we really need is airport's budget to be solidified. Once that's solidified, then we can go to the next step. But until then, that's where we're kind of waiting.
Okay, sounds good. So we're done. That's our status update for this week. Yeah, go right ahead.
Sure.
Leslie and Greg and I were talking about the ability for them to come in and have their donors take a look at it. I think the best way to do this, and Leslie and I had this conversation with Greg, is we'll pick a date and we'll pick a time and let them come in and let them take some video. Because otherwise, every single time somebody wants to
Yeah,
cut a
good
check,
point, yes.
they're gonna want me to let them in the building, and I'm not gonna do that. I mean, Greg doesn't have time for it, and then what's happened in the past is they get frustrated because they tell me, oh, I need you there
No, I
tomorrow
think-
at 11, and I can't make
No,
that happen.
I think your suggestion's absolutely right.
So are
In
you guys
fact,
fine with that?
Yes.
Bill, you okay with that?
Yes, very much. I think
Okay.
it's a great idea.
And this is really no different than when a property goes up for auction, be it a foreclosure or whatever. They'll typically designate a time for potential bidders to go through, and it's usually one time or a time span, you know, on a given date, and I think your suggestion is right on.
So I'll get with her, and then when we pick a date and time, I'll let you know, and I will stay in the house for the 2 hours or
Or whatever
3
it
hours
is,
to
right.
make sure that nobody gets hurt and nobody takes up, or whatever the case may be. But I just
Understood.
wanted to make sure we were all on the same page, that we're not gonna open it up every time somebody says they wanna write a check.
Right, and we have county property in there as well that's sensitive, so I don't want
There's
it to
things
be.
in there that don't need to be disturbed.
Right.
Okay, there's
Yeah.
things that just don't touch them,
Right,
okay?
Yeah.
Understood.
thank you.
Thank you. Okay, then, so public comment. None. 11:30, meeting adjourned. Thank you, everyone.